Well, Justin Bieber gets some Country Music Association nominations, and the country music world goes nuts. Chris Stapleton weighs in on Black Lives Matter, and now there's, the cancel culture vultures are after Chris Stapleton. Plus, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in sports and the Black Lives Matter movement, and some of it I just think is crazy. All that and a little bit more straight ahead in today's edition of the Midweek Update.
The music business without all the bullshit. This is the Steve Freeman Podcast.
I got to be honest, adding this third episode every week in the middle of the week on Wednesdays for the Midweek Update has been a little tricky. Doing 2 episodes a week on Monday and Friday, but if you're new to the podcast and this is the first time you've ever listened, welcome, and I appreciate you being here. I also want to make sure that you know the regular episodes of the podcast are on Mondays and Fridays, so make sure you check those out anywhere and everywhere you get your podcast. Plus, you can watch the video versions on YouTube or on my Facebook watch series, and you can find all the information that you need. Links and everything are in the show notes of today's episode. If you're watching on YouTube, it is in the description down below. And if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon, make sure that you're notified every time a new episode of either the podcast or the Midweek Update gets uploaded and goes live. If you're listening to the audio version, especially on Apple Podcast and iTunes, make sure that you rate us 5 stars and that you leave a written review. We will feature those on the regular podcast episodes on Monday and Friday. So go check those out. We also have a brand new Steve Freeman Podcast private Facebook group. If you would like to join that, link in the description, also in the show notes, or you can go to facebook.com/the Steve Freeman, and you will find it right there. So what I want to talk about today in this midweek update is I kind of peruse through what's going on in the news. Especially as it relates to music, entertainment. It seems like all the lines are getting blurred now. Everything, entertainment, music, sports, everything has taken a huge, I don't know if it's a right turn or a left turn, but because of what's going on in the country, we're in the middle of an election year. COVID, everything else that's been going on. Everything is now political because we have all of these people speaking out. And so I want to touch a little bit on that, especially as a lot of these stories are hitting the headlines. But first, what I find a little ironic is the other day, the CMA nominations came out. There were some artists that were left out that did not get some CMA nominations. There were some artists that quite frankly, didn't know if they were going to get nominated, did get nominated, like Ashley McBryde. I'm not saying it's not deserved, but she got some nominations. But the story that's come out of all this is actually pretty freaking amazing because Justin Bieber got 3 nominations. Now, it's for the song 10,000 Hours. I think I've heard it one time, but I don't listen to country radio. I don't watch CMT. Of course, there's no music on CMT whatsoever. So I don't listen to the radio. I often find it funny that I'll hear or I'll see something about the new #1 song in the country on the Billboard chart, and I'm like, fuck, I've never heard it. I think I've heard 10,000 Hours one time. And I think maybe even I didn't hear it. I think I saw the video for it. But Justin Bieber has gotten 3 CMA nominations for 10,000 Hours. Those nominations are Single of the Year, Music Video of the Year, and Musical Event of the Year. And almost everything that I've seen come out about this, people are pissed. They're upset. They're mad. They're angry. Justin Bieber isn't country. Folks, when's the last time you heard a country song on country radio? Again, you might have to tell me because I don't listen. I think I have kind of my finger on the pulse and I know what's going on. But listen, the CMAs have not celebrated country music in many years. So why all of a sudden everybody's mad at Justin Bieber? And I remember watching the video and getting ready for this show. I went back and I played snippets of it. Look, there's nothing wrong with the song 10,000 Hours. Is it country? No. But is Sam Hunt country? No. Is Florida Georgia Line country? No. Most of Kelsey Ballerini, not country. here's the thing about this, though. I feel a little bit sorry for the artists. And just because when I say that they're not country, I don't mean that they're not good or that their music's not great. It obviously is, because they are serving a fan base that already exists. So even though that fan base may be, 13-year-old to 22-year-old people, nothing wrong with that. They have a fan base. They are serving the fan base, supply, demand. It works in every aspect. But I feel a little sorry for the artist, because you're not ever going to please either side. You're not ever going to be country enough to please the true, loyal country music fans of what we all know and think country music is, okay? You're not ever going to be country enough for them to accept you. And if you ever tried, then you're not going to be accepted by your fan base, who their real basis for country music started with Carrie Underwood on American Idol. It's like pre-Carrie Underwood on American Idol. They have no idea. They think it's bluegrass and hillbilly music. So, like I said, I feel a little bit sorry for the artist, because they're trying to please their fan base, but then they're also trying to fit into the format. And then you've got there's collaborations are huge now. The one thing I do know is the radio that I listen to when I'm not listening. I usually listen to like sports talk radio because it gets me away from the business. I'm in the business all day, and I don't want to hop in my car, and I don't want to listen to country music. And a lot of times I don't really want to listen to music. I'm either listening to sports talk radio, or I'm listening to the 80s on 8 on Sirius XM. But what I do find as I'm scrolling sometimes through the various stations on satellite radio, almost all of these are collaborations, or what we call features. They're one artist featuring another artist. In this example with Justin Bieber, it was, I almost said Hall & Oates. I swear to God, I almost said Hall & Oates. It was Dan and Shay featuring Justin Bieber. That is technically what's called a musical event. It's a feature. It's a collaboration. That is a category at the CMA Awards. Over the last 10 years, many of these collaborations are very rarely country artists pairing up with country artists. What they're trying to do now is broaden the boundaries of different formats. And the only way to do that is to expose your music to a fan base that might not otherwise be familiar with you. Luke Bryan has done this. What did he do? Was it him that did something with Nelly and the other? Anyway, that's what they do. Okay, I get the purpose behind it. I don't always like it. But I don't like 98% of what's out there. So this is no offense against it. I thought 10,000 Hours was a good song. I thought it was great. I thought it was well done. I thought the video was really well done. So I don't have a problem with it. But a lot of other people do. And country music people are a different breed. And we're going to talk about this with Chris Stapleton coming up here in a minute. And you're never going to please them. You're never going to be country enough, or you're always going to be too pop. It's just the way that it goes. But there, I read some articles and some people that were reposting when the nominations got announced, reposting on Facebook, just bashing Justin Bieber. I didn't find very many people bashing Dan and Shay, which is odd. It was just all about Justin Bieber. Listen, if you're out there and you're an artist, and let's say, and Dan and Shay by this point, I mean, they're pretty well established. But let's say you're an up-and-coming artist, and you have the opportunity to do a collaboration with one of the biggest artists on the face of the planet, you're going to take it. And Dan and Shay was smart to do this. Justin Bieber was smart to do this. He's in this whole rebirth of his career, trying to redefine who he is as an artist, and more importantly, who he is as a person, because Lord knows the guy's had his troubles. But hey, we all have. But his are lived out in a much more public fashion. Everybody has an opinion on what he wears, what he doesn't wear, who he marries, where he goes for dinner, what he says. It's all magnified to an extent that none of us will truly, really ever understand. So I get what the deal is. It's a public image thing. Dan and Shay have a pretty, clean, clear, two nice guys. Nothing wrong with them. No controversy. And them joining forces with Justin Bieber to do this song 10,000 Hours, I thought was smart. And it's very well deserved, especially for the musical event. And I thought the music video was really good. So why, if Dan and Shay is a country act, why shouldn't their video that features Justin Bieber be considered or nominated for Music Video of the Year? We always say this, and this is always a problem because we're not really upset at Justin Bieber. We're not really upset at Dan and Shay. What we're upset at is that an artist that we like more didn't get nominated, and he did. That's what we're really saying. And guys, listen, I want to tell you something about these award shows. I'm a voting member of the Recording Academy, the Grammys, the CMAs, the ACMs, the Grammys, all of these, it's all political. The votes to get these things nominated and won are all bartered back and forth. I could log into my account at the Recording Academy when it is time for the Grammys to come around and we're all voting on the different categories within the Grammys. I get thousands of emails and communications through the Recording Academy of people lobbying on behalf of their project or the project that they want to get nominated. And the record labels and different companies have a certain amount of votes in these things. And they go around and they barter these votes. Hey, we'll give you our 5 votes for this single of the year if you give us your 4 votes on this artist for new artist of the year. It is all bartered. It is all done behind the scenes. Yes, whether it's the Academy Awards or the Golden Globes, doesn't matter. When they tramp those accountants up on stage, sure, those accountants tabulated the votes. But what led to those votes getting in that precious briefcase and suitcase that they carry up there? That's all bartered and traded and bought and paid for on the back end. We've got to stop living under this illusion that everything is just on the up and up. Good Lord, if we've learned nothing in the last 4 years, it's that you can't trust media, you can't trust anything. You can't hardly trust anybody. So listen, these things, the real public has no say-so in it whatsoever. So if the artist that you like didn't get nominated and Justin Bieber did, it has nothing to do with people not liking the artist that you like. It's all bought and paid for behind the scenes before the nominations ever come out. And I hate to see people get mad at Justin Bieber over this because Justin Bieber has never said he's a country artist. He's just being himself. And Dan and Shay chose to do this song. They chose to do this feature, this collaboration, and people happen to like it. Dan and Shay's fan base liked it. Justin Bieber's fan base liked it. And it just so happens that the main artist in the category is a country artist, whether you think Dan and Shay's country or not. It doesn't matter. They are in the country music genre. And so when the arguably biggest award show comes around for country music, one of the more popular artists had one of the bigger singles of the year, and it just so happened to feature Justin Bieber. But people are really upset. You know, they say 10,000 Hours was too pop to be considered country. Have you heard Sam Hunt lately? I mean, come on. Have you heard Florida Georgia Line? Have you heard Dustin Lynch? Have you heard any of these other people? It's not country. It's not what I call country. Now, is it new country? Is it modern country? Yeah, it would be considered modern country, but that's where the format's going. And there's nothing that any of us can do to change it, and it's never going back in the other direction. Country music has been in the headlines a lot this week. And I want to touch on this because I have some pretty strong feelings about this. You know, everybody is now, if you haven't heard, everybody's on board to cancel country music's darling Chris Stapleton. In a recent interview that he did, I believe it was with CBS, he was asked about Black Lives Matter. And he made some statements. And it has caused an uproar. If you thought people were pissed off about Justin Bieber being nominated for 3 CMA awards It's nothing. Justin Bieber is so happy for this interview, and Dan and Shay are so happy for this interview that Chris Stapleton did, because it immediately took all the focus off of that. Now, I want to read you some of these statements. Actually, I'll read you all of the statements that Chris Stapleton made about Black Lives Matter. He was asked if the music industry should be doing more. Here was his response. Chris Stapleton says, quote, "I think everybody should be doing more. There's a very broad awakening, I guess, that's come about, and it's time for me to listen, and it's time for other folks to listen." Then he gave a little bit more expanded explanation of how he has felt since the start of the protests. Chris said, quote, "Oh, for sure. You know, I thought we were living in a different country, and that's 100% real. I feel like the country that I thought we were living in was a myth. I think we all got to do a lot more work to do as individuals and as a society. And if you don't think that, then I think you're not looking." Okay, I'm not finding anything wrong there or controversial. Then he was asked, does he support Black Lives Matter? And Chris said, quote, "Do I think Black Lives Matter? Absolutely. I don't know how you could think they don't." Okay, now, when I saw the headlines, I thought, oh my God, what did he say? Because people are angry. People are pissed off. They are acting as if Chris Stapleton has put on a Antifa or Black Lives Matter t-shirt and is out there throwing Molotov cocktails and burning cop cars and spray painting buildings. That's the response that this thing has gotten. I went to one website because, listen, I don't want to make anything up. I want to be 100% accurate when I say this. So I went to one website. I went to several, actually, but they all said the same thing. So I picked out one site, whiskeyriff.com. And they had reposted this article talking and featuring the comments that Chris Stapleton had made in this, I believe it was CBS interview. Yeah, it was CBS this morning. I want to read you some of the tweets that have been sent and commented on mentioning this whole article and mentioning Chris Stapleton. Listen to this. "Well, looks like I'm done listening to another sellout." That one got 55 comments and 129 likes. Another one says, "Used to like you. Now me and everyone I know despises you." Another one, "I absolutely loved your music from the very start, and it pains me to delete it all now. You had a moment to stand up for all the good, hardworking folks that still believe in our country, police, and military. But you caved like a house of cards and pandered to the Black Lives Matter mob. Sad." Another one reads, "Bummed. I liked your music. America is not a myth, and systematic racism is a political myth. You need to learn the facts." Another one, "Unfortunately, he's not the only one. 90% of these artists despise the people they entertain. God-fearing Americans that love country music have been conned." How about this one? "Was a fan. Now I'm honored to stop listening to any product you put out. Stay woke." Another one reads, "Literally threw out his CDs out of my window while driving today. Hopefully a bird will shit on them." Another one, "Breaking. Sad day for country music. Ask at Chris Stapleton's career is dead. His last words were America is a myth as he endorsed Black Lives Matter. Drugs and fame. The unholy mix of narcissistic career suicide." I got to be honest with you. Now, I'm going to go back up. I got to read these again. I got to look at it again because that is not what I took away from this. When he was asked if the music industry should be doing more, he said, "I think everybody should be doing more. There's a very broad awakening, I guess, that's come about, and it's time for me to listen, and it's time for other folks to listen. Shit is changing in our country, folks. There is nothing wrong with that statement. There is nothing anti-American. There is nothing anti-Republican or anti-Democrat or anti-white people or anti-black people or anti-yellow, orange, purple, green, or blue people about that statement. He's simply reflecting on the times that we are all living in. Here seems to be the one that most people had an issue with. He was asked if his perspective changed since the start of the protest. Now, this is him reflecting on what he thinks. He said, "Oh, for sure. You know, I thought we were living in a different country, and that's 100% real. I feel like the country that I thought we were living in was a myth. I think we all got a lot of work to do as individuals and as a society. And if you don't think that, I think you're not looking." Listen, I don't care who you are and what your political affiliations are or what you believe about this president or the last president or whoever the next president's going to be. This is not political. It does not take a moron or an idiot or a rocket scientist on the other end of the spectrum to look and go, we are living in a different country than we thought we were, or we're living in a different country than we did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. I talked not long ago in a regular episode of the podcast about this whole thing being like a 9/11 event. I think after 9/11, we all lived in what we called a post-9/11 society. I think because of what's happening and what's going on, I don't think it has to be that you are woke to look at the news, to look at what's going on in the country and reflect on it and go, man, based on where I live, my circle of friends, and what I do and how I go about my life on a normal, everyday, Monday through Sunday life, especially in the life of somebody like Chris Stapleton, who one would probably say is privileged, is way above average, and he has a certain circle. We talked about bubbles before. I would imagine that when he turns on the evening news and he sees cities burning and he sees all of these different things going on, and whether you believe that any of these shootings have been justified or not justified or whatever, no matter what you believe, the fact remains is that we are living in a different country than we thought we were living on because we are seeing things we've never seen before to this level. Yes, there's always been protest. There's always been that. But tell me the last time you turned on your television or you got on social media since its inception and you saw people eating peacefully outside of restaurants and mobs and crowds of people come up and start throwing their food off of their tables, yelling in their face, screaming in their face while they're just sitting there trying to have a meal with their family. That is not the country that I thought I lived in. When I see things like that, I expect that to be in a communist country or somewhere else where we just don't have that society. So when he says we're living in a country that I thought was a myth, he's talking about from his perspective. And all these people are so upset and they're losing their mind and it's the Dixie Chicks all over again, which I didn't agree with what Natalie Maines did back then. I don't agree with going over to a foreign country and speaking bad about your country. I am a patriot. I love the United States of America. My thoughts are my thoughts. And if I'm going to say what they are, I'm going to say them right here. So I didn't agree with that. But I also didn't agree with just because she exercised her freedom of speech, that radio stations and people were throwing Dixie Chick CDs out the windows and were filming themselves having bonfires and burning T-shirts of the Dixie Chicks and CDs. That is too. If you are out there and you let any entertainer, sports figure, singer, actor, whoever, if you let any of those people and their personal opinion on politics determine whether you enjoy the art they create, you're a fucking moron. You don't need to be voting because you're too influenced. You're too weak-minded to make up your own mind if you think that anything Chris Stapleton says or anything LeBron James says or anything any of these other athletes, sports figures, actors, singers, if you think that there is a group of people out there that these people actually can sway one way or the other, that scares me. That's why we do have a voting age. Hopefully, so that by the time you reach that age, you are mature enough to make your own decisions. You're not voting for who Taylor Swift tells you to vote for. You're not voting for or believing in a cause because Chris Stapleton says you should. Which, by the way, all he said was we should be reflecting. We should all, the comment that he did make is that we should all be looking and reflecting on what's going on in the society. When he was asked if he thought, did he support Black Lives Matter? The statement he said was, do I think Black Lives Matter? Absolutely. I don't know how you could think they don't. That was offensive to Republicans, which are largely country music fans. That was very offensive to them. And I read you the tweets in response to it. We're going to burn his music. His career's over. They did the same thing to Eric Church when he made some what are considered controversial comments a couple of months ago. Oh, he's going to lose he's no more career. I'll be honest with you guys. There are more people that bought Chris Stapleton records that were not, quote unquote, in your circle of country music fans. Okay. Chris Stapleton has sold millions with an S. The country music fan base is good at most to sell 1 million records for an artist. If they want to sell more than 1 million, they've got to cross over and they got to go into other genres. So trust me, if every country music fan backed out and was no longer a Chris Stapleton fan, Chris Stapleton's going to be all right. He's going to be just fine. Maybe instead of selling 5 million records, he'll sell 4. But guys, come on. The same thing going on with sports right now with LeBron James and the teams backing out of the NBA playoffs. I'm one of these people. I wish that singers, actors, musicians, athletes, I wish they would just stick to their lane. I wish that they would just play their sport. I wish they would just get on stage and sing. But at the same time, I also have to say, and I have to understand where Chris Stapleton is coming from, because these people are on a platform, and a lot of times when they speak with reporters, and it's not always about talk about this song or perform this song. People want to know what they think. And guys, on either side of this aisle, the political aisle, we still live in a free country, and we are still allowed and have our First Amendment rights. We have a freedom of speech. And I don't think that it's right. I think it makes people ignorant that want to cancel people for exercising their First Amendment right when we don't agree with the words that are coming out of their mouth. It is their right to do so. It is your right to disagree. But to look at it and see these lines, it's no longer where we can just disagree with our neighbor. We're way past that now. It is we are allies or we are enemies. And I can't, and maybe it's me, and you guys will tell me in the comments. Lord knows you will tell me in the comments. And that's fine. That is your First Amendment right as well. I can't find anything that Chris Stapleton said in this interview that would make anybody want to stop listening to his music or make them want to throw his CDs out the window or say that his career is over. When I look at those comments, I see a very middle of the road answer. I see and almost can know what's going on in his brain, that I've got to be very careful how I answer this question. I want to give my honest opinion and I want to say how I feel, but I also don't want to rock the boat either way. The comments, when you read them and look at them, are very bland. What happens is we've got this dishonest media that picks them up and takes those comments and weaponizes them towards one side or the other. So that when you get some of these websites that are country fundamentalist, if you will. And they don't like new country, and they only like traditional country. And a lot of them even have an issue with Chris Stapleton. They get a hold of things like this and immediately skew it to upset people and turn it political. And like I said, weaponize it. Now, listen, the other side does the same thing too, because I saw others post, Chris Stapleton supports Black Lives Matter. That is not what he said. And I don't know if Chris Stapleton supports Black Lives Matter or not. Should I text him? That's not going to be what I ask. So I don't know. But that headline is not what he said. Again, they asked, do you support Black Lives Matter? And he questioned back, do I think Black Lives Matter? Absolutely. I don't know how you could think they don't. That was a very smart answer. And I can tell you that answer was probably coached. And for good purposes. To stop things that are happening like what's happening to him right now. Name one person out there. I mean, I'm sure there's some, and you guys are just racist bigots. There are some of you out there that probably, I can't imagine anybody that doesn't think that Black lives don't matter. I'm not talking about the movement, and neither was he. The question was framed to him in the viewpoint of the movement. The question was, do you support Black Lives Matter? They are talking about the movement. They are talking about largely what's going on in these cities in Portland and other places, what happened in Seattle, Chicago, Kenosha. They are talking about the more violent end of the movement and asking him if he supports that. He turned that around to mean, do Black lives matter as in the lives of people who are Black, who are African American? Yes, their lives matter. Who in the world would think that they didn't? He did not give a blanket support statement for the movement. Black Lives Matter. And again, those of you out there that can't see that and don't know the difference, I beg of you, please don't vote. Please don't vote because you're too ignorant. You are not smart enough to see the difference. Nothing he said in that statement said that he supported the movement of Black Lives Matter. What he said were that Black lives matter. You have got to be able to see the distinction, the difference there. I just, with everything going political, and it's hard because this is a tumultuous time in our country. We are extremely divided. We are in the middle of an election year. I don't think it's going to turn out how most of you would like for it to turn out, or some of you would like for it to turn out. I'll just be real. I don't think Joe Biden has a chance in hell. That's not saying I support Donald Trump. I'm just telling you the landscape of the land. There are a lot of people that don't like what's going on right now. There are a lot of people do not like the unruliness. A lot of people don't like getting on social media and seeing innocent people being trampled. They don't like seeing cop cars and buildings on fire. They don't like seeing graffiti all over their cities. They do not like seeing groups of people harass innocent people at restaurants. 90% of us don't like that, regardless of what political party you're at or you're affiliated with or who you want to be president. It doesn't matter. And when Chris Stapleton looks back and thinks, man, I'm seeing things I've never seen before. We don't live in the country that I thought we lived in. That is just fact. That is not a political statement. It's just fact. And I think it's sad that we've gotten where we've gotten. And again, I wish that actors, athletes, singers, celebrities would stick to their lane and not even weigh in on politics. Because it just muddies the water. And it literally scares me to death to think that there are people out there that would allow a celebrity to sway their vote or their political opinion. That's scary because those should be yours. Those should be educated and informed positions that you take based on knowing exactly what's going on and knowing how it affects you and what you stand for and what you don't stand for. If you're one of these people that's out there and you're allowing a celebrity to tell you what you need to stand for, you are the weakest individual on the face of the planet. And like I said, please don't vote. That, or do me a favor and vote by mail. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the Midweek Update. I know I'm going to get hammered in the comments because you guys, there's a certain section of you guys that you just hate it when I get political. But I'm not really getting political. This relates to the music business, the music industry, and these people attacking Chris Stapleton. So did I go political on it? Yes, but I also love politics. I do. I love it a lot. And if you're like me and you love politics and you love the inner workings of it, then you're having a great time right now. But seriously, our country is going through something that we've never experienced to this level ever before. We've had a lot hit us at one time. We've had the storms, we've had hurricanes, we've had tornadoes, we've had COVID-19. We've had a lot of negative things impact us at one time. We've never had that before in our country, so people are dealing with it a little differently. Thank you guys for being here. Don't forget, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on Apple Podcast or iTunes. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification and set on all notifications so that you're notified every time a new video goes live, which is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Guys, until next time, keep being creative, keep pressing the boundaries, and there's nothing wrong with being independent. See you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining us for the Steve Freeman Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow Steve on social media at the Steve Freeman.